Comic Book Savant, binge at your leisure. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. In this episode, we're going to be doing a TV show review, and we're going to be reviewing episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is the new Disney Plus Marvel television show. This is going to be a 6-episode series, so this is shorter, technically episode-wise shorter than what WandaVision was, but the episodes are double the size. They're clocking in just shy of an hour per episode, whereas WandaVision were, for the most part, about 30 minutes per episode. So we're seeing a bump there. And the main premise of the series, again, we're following Falcon as well as Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, kind of picking up in the world about, I guess, 6 months or so after Endgame, where WandaVision was about 2 weeks or so after everybody returned kind of from the blip or from the ending of Endgame. So we had more time pass, and the world is in a very jumbled state, a lot centering around people returning from the blip and what issues politically that is causing in the world. And that's the big heart of kind of what we get kind of set up in this initial episode of the series. Just to give you a breakdown of some of the cast in this first episode, we have Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, aka Falcon. We have Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes. We have, I hope I pronounced this correctly, and Pero Adu as Sarah Wilson. We have Don Cheadle making a cameo in this first episode as James Rose, aka War Machine. We have George St. Pierre reprising his role as Batroc. We have Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres. We have Amy Aquino as Dr. Rayner, and we have Wyatt Russell as John Walker. And we have Aaron Kellerman as Carly Morgenthau. And this first episode was really, really good. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan really bring great depth to these characters in ways I couldn't necessarily imagine. They've been fringe kind of sidekick characters in most of the Captain America trilogy up until this point. They've both had, small cameos in different places, in the Avengers, in Endgame and Infinity War, things like that. We've seen their storylines extended somewhat, but I love the fact with these Disney Plus shows, they can get more spotlight, and what essentially is kind of being pitched to us here as basically more or less than a sitcom or a television show. It's more like a long movie broken up into 6 episodes, unlike where WandaVision, for the premise and the concept they were going for, needed to be more like a sitcom, and that's how it played, and that's how it felt, especially in the beginning. Then it expanded out. Here it feels very much so like a traditional Marvel movie. Captain America is probably one of my favorite franchises out of the MCU run of films, and I love these characters. So seeing it extended in this way, it felt home to me, like immediately. Just the way it was shot, the way the action felt, all of it just rang true. As now we're slowly building back up the MCU. With the pandemic and everything, we haven't had any movies in the past year plus, a little bit over a year now. Excuse me. But fortunately, because of Disney Plus, we finally got WandaVision. Now we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What Loki's going to be coming up next, and then we have Black Widow coming, and now we're slowly integrating the movies back into the big things. And so these shows are really setting the stage for the bigger presentation of the movies, and can take these characters that their storylines couldn't be fleshed out via a full feature length, can be done on the small screen, but it doesn't. The thing I do like about it, it doesn't feel like the small screen. It feels like a high end production. It feels like a movie. Also, I thought it was a really great touch them bringing back George St. Pierre's Batroc into the MCU. Um, I did some research on Danny Ramirez because he was featured really prominently in this first episode, and so I was wondering what his importance was. And I did a Wikipedia search, and I saw Danny Ramirez's Joaquin Torres is an important character, kind of similar to how Monica Rambeau was in WandaVision. And as we keep going and how they're building up the MCU, in the comics, he was actually captured and experimented on, which mutates him into a human/Falcon hybrid. And he later becomes Sam Wilson's sidekick, taking up his Falcon moniker, then later joining the superhero team, the Champions. It might be nothing now, but it could be, Marvel kind of planting the seeds for new heroes to emerge going forward, which Kevin Feige has been big on. So I could only imagine, just like with Monica, that we might see in this series, some hints of Joaquin maybe serving in that similar kind of role, which would kind of be cool. Seeing him from the very beginning, kind of, as like I said, he seems like more like a sidekick character that he might be in the series, but it could be it could be nothing. It might just be, they just kind of threw it out there. It just thought kind of how he was featured, it gave a real Monica feel in his first episode. So I've learned, let me go see who this person is and if he's important, and saw that he had some ties to Sam in the comics, and he had a history. Also, I felt like the opening action sequence alone was worth the price of admission for this first episode. It just really rocked. I didn't think it was going to kick off with action like right off the bat, but it did. It worked. George St. Pierre and Anthony Mackie's fight scene in the plane was awesome, and how Sam uses his wings and his jetpack to fight is like really cool to see how he's very comfortable at this point in the Falcon persona. He's been Falcon for a while, and and had his hero suit going back to what was it? Captain America, Civil War. When you saw them, out in the field, and seeing that they were, he trained. He is an Avenger. Excuse me. So he was trained by Black Widow as well as Steve, and he's very good hand-to-hand combat. Plus, he was in the armed forces as well. So I think that's not played up enough, but it really was brought to the forefront that he's very capable, even though he has no superpowers. He just has his suit and his wings, that he incorporates all that into everything he brings to the table. But he's more than capable, that he can hold his own with some of those threats that are out there. So I really loved that that whole fight scene. I feel like the writers did a really good job setting the stage for the world few months post Blip, which dates this show post WandaVision, which was only 2 weeks post people returning from the Blip, which I mentioned earlier. So we're getting this kind of timeline established here, that as far as things that were released, what was it? Spider-Man: Far From Home clearly was after Endgame, but further along. WandaVision then backtracks and kind of sets the stage for some of the stuff that was talked about in Far From Home, and now this even sets the stage more and kind of the state of the world here. So it was a lot that took place, and we're seeing it more and more as these shows start to come out and fill in some of these gaps of that 5-year jump and what state the world was in, and people trying to survive and getting back to normalcy, and then the Blip coming and all these people returning right after 5 years of them being gone, and people trying to put their lives together. and I don't think they didn't have time to show that impact from the snap and when people were snapped away and when people were snapped back. So these shows are doing a good job on saying that the world is a fundamentally different place from where we left it that 5 years before that time jump. So it's cool getting more context on those events now, because it was nothing for us when we were watching the movie. It just jumped in, it was like 5 years later, and we kind of pick up with the main story, but it's so much backstory that remains to be known. So it's good that we're getting that. I thought the cameo from Don Cheadle was a nice subtle scene. Nothing major, just exposition that we needed, kind of again setting the stage of what's taking place at the end of Endgame, pardon the pun, when Steve hands Sam the shield and how he's been handling it and the decision he decides to make. Another thing that I really loved in this first episode was Sebastian Stan and Amy Aquino's chemistry. It really kind of reminded me of the early seasons of The Sopranos when James Gandolfini was going to his therapist and getting treatment. It had that whole feel, and the chemistry was somewhat similar to that. So I really just loved that whole feel and vibe. It just was really enjoyable part of the first episode. It was really surprising to see Sebastian Stan being so comedic. I really envisioned him being more the straight man in the show, and it's seeing that he's a great actor, and I've seen him play so many different roles in different movies over time. So I know he's well ranged as an actor, and as well Anthony Mackie. But again, I just thought Anthony that he would be more straight man. He wouldn't have that great comedic timing that he has playing off another great actress, which Amy Aquino has been around for a while, and I've seen her on so many shows and movies and things, that she's a very well-known character actress, and they just clicked so seamlessly. It worked so well for me. Really enjoyed that. I don't know how much that part, because we've seen a lot in the trailers, but I know a lot of times they give you a lot from the first few episodes, but not from the bigger picture. So I don't know how much more we're going to see of her in the show, or is it just a one and done appearance? But I don't think we've seen everything that was shown in the trailers with her yet. So I hope it's a good dose of her throughout the series at this point, because I like her quippiness going back and forth with him. That's really fun. Another thing I just have to shout out is director Carrie Skoglund. That's what it is. I've seen an interview with her. She does a great job balancing the action, the character development, and the comedy. I can't wait to see what else she does, because I saw an interview right before the premiere of this episode, and she did a great interview on the YouTube channel. It's called Beyond the Trailer. The host is Grace Randolph. I'm a huge fan of that YouTube channel, and she did an interview. I didn't know she was a female director. She's been around Hollywood for a long time. I think this is one of her first feature directorial features, and just from what I saw from that first episode and hearing what she said in the interview, I'm so stoked to see where this goes with her directing. It definitely seems like she has a handle on balancing all the aspects that Marvel likes to bring in their movies and incorporates, and it was shot beautifully. So I'm on board. But again, the Captain America franchise or branch in the MCU is one of my favorite, and I love the said characters within that branch of the MCU. So I've been waiting for this show. This was probably when the initial announcements of the Disney Plus shows came out. Was one I was anticipating the most. From my childhood, and I talked about this during the WandaVision reviews, was that they were my favorite characters couple in the 80s when I was reading comic books, and when I was like 10, 11 years old. I was a huge fan of the Avengers, and when they broke off and did the West Coast Avengers, or Avengers West Coast as it later was dubbed, or vice versa, I love those characters. So seeing them get spotlight in the MCU finally was satisfying, because it went back to my childhood. But I read Cap, as a kid off and on, but I've fallen in love with the character through the MCU. I liked the character before and would read it here and there. I love this Captain America, Sam. These are characters I knew of but wasn't as familiar with as I've grown familiar with them through the MCU. So seeing this series finally make it to the light of day, it's just been everything for me because I just love it, and I love the characters and the actors portraying the parts. So all that being said, I would say I would give this first episode an 8.5 out of 10. I think, casting, everything is on point here. I think it was a good start with more to come in the future. I'm really interested to see where these storylines kind of go that we're getting. And the world is kind of a mess right now, and it's a lot of stuff going on. So again, I can't wait to see what we have next episode. That's all I really got for you guys for this review. Again, as always, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Comic Book Savant. You can find all my content over at the website, which is comicbooksavant.com. If you have a moment, if you can leave a review over at iTunes for the podcast, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like the content that I do and you would like to support the show, you can do it in two ways. I have a Patreon that you can find over at patreon.com/comicbooksavant. Or you can purchase some merchandise. I have a store. You can find it over at the website. I have a link to the store. We have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have stickers, more to come with more merchandise as well. So those are ways you can support, or you can always retweet, repost information, share it with a friend. All of that helps grow the community even more. Also have a cool Facebook group, which is the Comic Book Savant Society, which you can find over at Facebook as well. So it's a public group, so you can join. Just do a search in the groups for Comic Book Savant Society. You should be able to find it there, and you can join the group and join the awesome community there, where we just get to know each other and talk a ton about comics. So it's really fun. So if you have a moment, check that out as well. Until next time, I hope everyone is being safe out there, getting vaccinated if it's available in your area, and just being overall safe and taking care of yourself and your family. Until next time, you guys take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.